Today we continue in chapter 6 and section 2, the alternative to projection. Any split in mind must involve a rejection of part of it. And this is the belief in separation. The wholeness of God, which is His peace, cannot be appreciated except by a whole mind that recognizes the wholeness of God's creation. But this recognition, it knows, by this recognition, it knows its creator. Exclusion and separation are synonymous, and as are separation and dissociation. We have said before that the separation was and is dissociation, and that once it occurs, projection becomes its main defense, or the device that keeps it going. The reason, however, may not be so obvious as you think. All right, let's go deeper into this. So the theme is the alternative to projection. So he will let us know what we can do instead of project. There is an alternative. We don't have to project. And he starts with letting us know that any split in the mind must involve a rejection of part of it. So if the mind is whole, it's a whole mind. A split in mind must involve a rejection of a part of it. It has to be, the mind has to reject a part of itself in order to seemingly create a split. So the mind is still whole, but believes that it is a split in mind, and it must be a rejection of a part of it. And this is separation. The wholeness of God, which is His peace, cannot be appreciated except by a whole mind that recognizes the wholeness of God's creation. So he lets us know that we cannot recognize God and the whole mind unless we receive it and accept it and appreciate it. And a large part of A Course of Miracles, the training, is appreciation of the whole mind, gratefulness for the whole mind, being thankful for the whole mind, being grateful that we could not create this split. We made this split. And that means that it's not true. Creation is real and made is unreal. It's a fantasy. So by this recognition of our own wholeness and His wholeness, and this wholeness as one, we know that God created us. We could not create ourselves. God created us as Him, in His likeness. So we are whole, we are abstract, we are love, we are eternal, like God. We could not change that because we did not create ourselves. We could dream that we could change it, but it's not true. And then he let us know that exclusion and separation are synonymous, and also separation and dissociation. Dissociation is a term from psychology that means that something really terrible happened, like a trauma happened. And it's too painful to remember this trauma, so I have to split myself from it, disassociate myself from it. And this is what happened. The trauma we experienced as a whole mind when we started to believe in a split in mind, and that we have rejected God and that God have rejected us. This was so terrible, so frightening that we couldn't stand it. So we had to dissociate ourselves from it, push it outside of us. This is when the ego said, run, run from God. He will find you and he will kill you. Death didn't appear until that moment when the ego said, he will kill you, run, and ran into this illusion, this dream, this fantasy. We fell asleep. That's the only thing we could do. And when we fell asleep, we imagined that we are not a whole mind anymore, that we are split into many, many billions and billions of fragments, rejected from God and rejected from each other. It's not true. So exclusion and separation are synonymous, and separation and dissociation. So dissociation is separation. So we have said before that the separation was and is dissociation. This is what separation is. And that once it occurs, projection becomes its main defense. So projection is a defense. I am projecting, as the whole mind, I am projecting these images of a split mind in billions and billions of fragments, living in an illusion where bodies are separated from things, and bodies need air and water and whatever. And I project what I believe in. I project the separation from God again and again and again. I experience the separation from God. I make my daughter God, for example, or my boss God, or my spouse God, and I experience rejection and separation. So once this association occurs, I have to project, and it becomes my defense. Or the device that keeps the separation going, keeps the dissociation going. And this is what we are deciding for in every moment. Do we want the unholy moment, or do we want the holy moment? The unholy would be projecting this story that we are rejected and separated and alone. So projection is the device, the defense that keeps the separation going. And the reason why is maybe not as obvious as we think, so now maybe he will tell us. What you project, you disown, and therefore do not believe it is yours. This is the heart of dissociation, when I dissociate from what I am afraid of. I disown it when I project it. I believe that I disown it. And I don't believe it's mine anymore. I don't believe the projection, this horrible, horrible moment of separating from God is mine. No, 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 no. I project it on somebody else is to blame. What you project, you disown, and therefore do not believe it is yours. You are excluding yourself by the very judgment that you are different from the one on whom you project. Since you have also judged against what you project, you continue to attack it because you continue to keep it separated. By doing this unconsciously, you try to keep the fact that you attacked yourself out of awareness, and thus imagine that you have made yourself safe. And it can look like I am attacking myself as this body. It doesn't matter if I attack and blame this body, this individual, or I seem to attack something or somebody else. It doesn't matter. This is not who I am. I am as God created me. I'm still as God created me. And that is what I try to keep safe, but not be aware of. So we do actually attack what we believe are ourselves. Absolutely, because it's not. Yet projection will always hurt you. Always, always, always. It reinforces your belief in your own split mind. And its only purpose is to keep the separation going. It is solely a device of the ego to make you feel different from your brothers and separated from them. The ego justifies this on the grounds that it makes you seem better than they are, thus obscuring your equality with them still further. Projection and attack are inevitably related because projection is always a means of justifying attack. Anger without projection is impossible. The ego uses projection only to destroy your perception of both yourself and your brothers. The process begins by excluding something that exists in you but which you do not want, and leads directly to excluding you from your brothers. So projection will always hurt me. It doesn't matter if I project something I judge as good or positive. It will always hurt me. And it doesn't mean um, that we have to stop to project. Not at all. But we can look at what we project. We can look at what we project and we can give it to the Spirit, and He will see it in a completely different way and give us back what we projected in a way that it points towards truth in who we are, truth in what we are, and that we are still as God created us. So projection will always hurt us. Doesn't matter if it's positive or negative. Projection reinforces my belief in my own split mind. And that hurts because it's not true. And its only purpose is to keep the separation going. So projection's only purpose is to keep the separation going. It's a device of the ego to make me feel different from my brothers. And brothers is a term that points towards Christ in you, the whole mind in you and in me and in everybody else. So we want to feel different than Christ. We want to feel different than who we are, different from our brothers, and we want to feel separated from them. This is when we think together with the ego. And ego justifies it on the grounds that we are better than they are. Everybody is walking around this earth believing that they are better than someone or something. Isn't that interesting? And we would love to have that confirmed and validated by others that we are better in some way. And we can be better in really, really weird ways. Like I'm more sick than you. If I'm more sick than you, I am better because I show God that I know that I'm guilty. And I punish myself with sickness. And look at me. I do the right thing. But you are not. You are not as sick as I am. You see how weird is really obscured. And we don't want to be equal with each other. We want to blame someone. We want to blame our parents. They did it wrong. They never understood me, and whatever they did wrong makes me better than them because I know. I know. We have this I know mind. It can be small, small, small things. I am better than you because I know um, I know something you don't know. That makes me better. So we are always looking for this being better than others when we think with the ego. And the course is talking a lot about seeing Christ in your brother and seeing that we are equal. And for me, that has been and still is hardcore training to see to see what the ego is saying to me about being better than someone else and practice forgiveness on that. And then he lets us know that projection and attack are related all the time, always, because projection is always a means of justifying attack. We project outside what we don't want to keep, and we justify attack by projecting. You are wrong, so I can attack you. I am better than you, so I can attack you. And anger without projection is impossible. It's really interesting to see practicing forgiveness as A Course in Miracles teach us to look at these projections, look at these beliefs, these thoughts, these feelings with the Holy Spirit and receive His interpretation, and just feeling how the attack and how the anger is dissolving, and what is there is just love. It's just love there. And it doesn't matter what have happened because it's not true. It disappears in his sight, in the Holy Spirit's true vision. So anger without projection is impossible. The ego uses projection only to destroy your perception of both yourself and your brothers. That's the way the ego uses projection, to destroy our perception of ourselves and your brothers. And that process begins by excluding something that exists in you, but which you do not want. That's why we start to project. And it leads directly to excluding you from your brothers. Soon as we project, we experience it as we are excluded from Christ, from the whole mind, from our brothers. The ego can kidnap it and say that you are God. So we can go completely the other way also, but still exclude your brothers and yourself. We have learned, however, that there is an alternative to projection. Now it comes. Every ability of the ego has a better use because its abilities are directed by the mind, which has a better voice. The Holy Spirit extends and the ego projects. The Holy Spirit extends and the ego projects as their goals are opposed. and so is the result. Isn't this wonderful? So the Holy Spirit can use everything the ego made, or we made with the ego, because it's made by the mind, and we are from the same mind. The Holy Spirit is a creation of God, as you are, as I am, and we are the same. And we can choose this better voice. We can choose this better voice and listen to his interpretations. And then he shows us completely a complete different world with the extension instead of the projection. The extension feels warm and soft and very, very clear. And there is no questions in the extension. In the projection is always questions. And their goals are opposed. So the goal for the ego is to verify separation, and the goal for Holy Spirit is to verify unity in mind. And they will have completely different results. One will separate and the other will unite. The Holy Spirit begins by perceiving you as perfect. And he's not talking about the body or the identity or your role as whatever you're working with, or your position in a family, or a spouse, or a father, or a dog owner. It's you as God created you. That's how the Holy Spirit perceives you. The Holy Spirit begins by perceiving you as perfect, knowing this perfection is shared. He recognizes in others, thus strengthening it in both. Instead of anger, this arouses love for both, exactly, because it establishes inclusion. You see how opposite it is? It's not exclusion, this is inclusion. Perceiving equality, the Holy Spirit perceives equal needs. In a conflict, it's a call for love from both. It's the same need. This invites atonement automatically, because atonement is the one need in this world that is universal. And atonement is to remember that we are as God created us. That's the atonement, to accept that. And this is the one need in the whole world. It's universal. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. I would say happiness and freedom and feeling safe and more. That is because it is the acknowledgement that you are not in this world. For this world is unhappy. We are never in this world. We are always at the end of time, just looking at what has already happened. This is from lesson 158, paragraph 4. So, the Holy Spirit begins by perceiving you as perfect and innocent and pure. That's the feeling. With the ego, it is this ugliness that is coming up, and we want to hide it and project it on others. But no, the Holy Spirit just sees beyond it and sees the pureness, the perfection. It's wonderful to be seen as we are. And knowing this perfection is shared. He recognizes it in others. So when I allow the Holy Spirit to look through me, to do through me, to speak through me, I will see this perfection, this pureness in everyone around me. And I can, with the Holy Spirit's help, just look beyond ego and just see love there. So knowing this perfection is shared, he recognizes it in others, thus strengthening it in both. When I allow him to see through me, he can strengthen it in both of us. Instead of anger, this arouses love for both because it establishes inclusion. We feel as one in communion with each other and with God. Perceiving equality, the Holy Spirit perceives equal needs. Even if it looks like a call for love from both, he invites the atonement automatically, because atonement is the one need in this world that is universal. This is the only need we have, to remember that we are as God created us. God created us as everything. So we don't need anything else but everything. To perceive yourself this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. And we can perceive ourselves this way. The training in A Course in Miracles and thousands of other ways is to come to this uh, experience of being perfect, of remembering who we are. So to perceive yourself in this way is the only way in which you can find happiness in the world. That is because it is the acknowledgement that you are not in this world, for the world is unhappy. This is something to admit. We need to admit that, to see that this world is unhappy. This world is separation. And when we can start to admit it, we can start to see it, and we can start to give it to the Spirit. And he will give back the extension instead of projection. How else can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing that you are not there? You cannot be anywhere God did not put you, and God created you as a part of Him. That is both where you are and what you are. It is completely unalterable. It is total inclusion. You cannot change it now or ever. It is forever true, and it is not a belief but a fact. Anything that God created is as true as He is. Its truth lies only in its perfect inclusion in Him who alone is perfect. To deny this is to deny yourself and Him, since it is impossible to accept one without the other. So, how else can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing that you are not there? Uh, there is a story about Jesus and Helen, where Jesus asks Helen, so if you find yourself in a desert, there is no water, and it's just a very, very hot sun, what do you do? And she couldn't figure out what do you do. So after some time, he let her know, you leave. And this is the same. How else can you find joy in a joyless place except by realizing that you're not there? It's just a thought, it's a fantasy, it's an illusion in our mind that we are here. And how do you find joy in a joyless place? By realizing that you aren't here. You leave. In your mind, you leave. You don't believe anymore that you are here. That's the same with the desert story. So it's pure joy to realize that we could not change God and we could not change ourselves, and we are still at home in God, dreaming this. This is how we can find joy in a joyless place, realizing that we are not here. And we can look at this joyless place and give it to the Spirit so we can have it translated from projection to extension. So we can't be anywhere where God didn't put us. And God created us as a part of Him, and we are still there dreaming this. So that is both where you are and what you are. That's the question that have frightened me the most. What am I? Not who am I or where am I, but what? What am I? It is completely unalterable. I can't alter who I am. I can't change who I am. I am as God created me. And this is total inclusion. I'm totally included in God. And so are you. You're totally included in God. We are all completely included in God. Just feel that. We can't change it. We can't change it now or ever. It is forever true. And this is not a belief but a fact. So his uh, um, translating the understanding of belief and fact in a little bit different way. So uh, from the Holy Spirit's perspective, it's craziness to ask, do you believe in God? That's complete craziness. Because God is not a belief, God is a fact. God is the only existence regardless of what you believe. It's a fact. From the ego's perspective, where most of us think, it's a very valid question. If you believe in God, then we have a system of thoughts, what that means, that you are religious. I had a text from a friend yesterday saying that, oh, you have become so much more religious now. I don't think I want to spend time with you guys. And that is just a thought system that we apply on I believe in God. And you don't believe in God, then we have a completely different thought system that we put on that, or a system of beliefs, I would say, that we put on that. And from the Holy Spirit's perspective, that's just craziness. God is a fact. That you are created as God in His likeness is a fact. It's not a belief. You can't change it. So it's not a belief, but a fact. You cannot change it now or ever. It's forever true. Anything that God created is as true as He is. Its truth lies only in its perfect inclusion in Him who alone is perfect. And this is a description of oneness, very, very difficult for us who have trained us with the ego's way of thinking to understand. But for me, these sentences where oneness is described, they just receive them, and it feels good. So anything that God created is as true as He is. Its truth lies only in its perfect inclusion in Him, who alone is perfect. And to deny this is to deny yourself and Him. To deny this oneness is to deny who you are, what you are, where you are, and Him, who is a fact, the only thing that actually exists together with you. To deny this is to deny yourself and Him, since it is impossible to accept one without the other, because we are one. This is the oneness. The perfect equality of the Holy Spirit's perception is the reflection of the perfect equality of God's knowing. The ego's perception has no counterpart in God. But the Holy Spirit remains the bridge between perception and knowledge by enabling you to use perception in a way that reflects knowledge. You will ultimately remember it. The ego would prefer to believe that this memory is impossible. Yet, it is your projection the Holy Spirit guides. Your perception will end where it began. Everything meets in God because everything was created by Him and in Him. So, the perfect equality of the Holy Spirit's perception is the reflection of the perfect equality of God's knowing. So, He is using perception and knowing. Perception is here in the illusion. We perceive in the illusion. We perceive with our eyes, our ears, smells, to feel things. And it is an interpretation. It's always an interpretation. Perception is interpretation of what I believe that I see. And I interpretate with either the ego or the Holy Spirit, with the purpose of separation or the purpose of unity. And knowledge is at home with God, and that is just knowing. It is being in a state of knowing, and we can live in the reflection of that state of knowing here. So the perfect equality of the Holy Spirit's perception is the reflection of the perfect equality of God's knowing. This is how Holy Spirit uses perception. We can live in the reflection of the perfect equality of God's knowing here, now. The ego's perception has no counterpart in God, not at all. It's only knowing in God. But the Holy Spirit was created by God when we fell asleep, and He created Holy Spirit immediately. He's the answer in our sleep, remembering who we are, what we are, where we are. That's why the Holy Spirit can be a bridge between perception and knowing, between the illusion and heaven. So the Holy Spirit remains the bridge between perception and knowledge by enabling you to use perception in a way that reflects knowledge. This is the extension, how the Holy Spirit can use anything the ego have made to reflect heaven. He says that he's washing it clean, all our beliefs. He's just washing them clean from the ego's separation, and what remains is just love. And that is the reflection of heaven, of God's knowledge. By enabling you to use perception in a way that reflects knowledge, you will ultimately remember it. That's the training. We will ultimately remember God's knowledge and who we are, what we are. And the ego would prefer to believe that this memory is impossible, and yet it is your perception. It's not the ego's. No, 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 no. It's your perception the Holy Spirit guides. It's the whole mind's perception. It's the Christ mind's perception the Holy Spirit guides. That's who you are, not the ego. The ego is nothing. But I believe in it, so it seems to be something, but it's not. So your perception will end where it began. Everything meets in God, because everything was created by Him and in Him, and that is a fact. So the ego is not created by God and does not exist. It is nothing. You are. God created His sons by extending His thought and retaining the extensions of His thought in His mind. All His thoughts are thus perfectly united within themselves and with each other. The Holy Spirit enables you to perceive this wholeness now. God created you to create. You cannot extend His kingdom until you know of its wholeness. And we do that in forgiveness. So our function in heaven is to extend, and here it's similar to forgiveness. That is our function here, and that is what is most similar to extension. And you can feel it, and you can feel it on our meetings when someone is doing their forgiveness work, and we come to that opening where love just pours in and it extends to everyone in the whole mind. That's why we feel it. Thoughts begin in the mind of the thinker, from which they reach outward. This is as true of God's thinking as it is of yours, because your mind is split. You can perceive as well as think. Yet perception cannot escape the basic laws of mind. You perceive from your mind and project your perceptions outward. Although perception of any kind is unreal, you made it, and the Holy Spirit can therefore use it well. He can inspire perception and lead it toward God. This convergence seems to be far in the future only because your mind is not in perfect alignment with the idea and therefore does not want it now. So thought begin in the mind of the thinker, from which they reach outward. This is as true of God's thinking as it is of yours. So in my thinking as well, thoughts begin in the mind and reaches outward. And in other places in the Course, it says that when you think with the ego, you are not thinking, you're mindless. You're in mindlessness. You don't see yourself as a whole mind. You see yourself as separated or split, and you start to fantasize, and you're not thinking. And the thoughts he's talking about here is the thoughts together with God. And we still think with God on and off. We're mindless and we think with God, and we're mindless and we think with God. And he says in other places that these thoughts are kept in like a room of treasures with an open doors, and angels are guarding it for you. It's so beautiful. So, because my mind is split, I can perceive as well as think. So I can perceive with the ego, be mindless, as well as think with God and be mindful. Yet, perception with the ego cannot escape the basic law of mind. Isn't that good? So I perceive from my mind and project my projections outward. Even though perception is unreal, I made it with real power, and the Holy Spirit can therefore use it well. He can use any perception, any projection, any belief. And this seems to be far in the future. We project it far in the future. I'm not worthy now. For me, it is a path of constant forgiveness on whatever shows up in my projection, perception. So I can give it to the Spirit so He can teach me through me. He comes through me and teaches me. So that I will come closer and closer to accept that it is now. I am in God now. I can live in the reflection of heaven now. So my mind is, through forgiveness, coming closer and closer to this perfect alignment with the idea. And I want it more and more. Now I want it. I'm opening it up. I'm more willing to forgive so that I can be in the reflection of God's knowledge now. The Holy Spirit uses time, but does not believe in it. Ah, isn't that wonderful? The Holy Spirit uses time, but does not believe in it. Coming from God, He uses everything for good, but He does not believe in what is not true. Since the Holy Spirit is in your mind can also believe only what is true. The Holy Spirit can speak only for this, because He speaks for God. He tells you to return your whole mind to God, because it has never left Him. It was, if it has never left Him, you need only perceive it as it is to be returned. The full awareness of the atonement, then, is the recognition that the separation never occurred. The ego cannot prevail against this because it is an explicit statement that the ego never occurred. Isn't that wonderful? Oh, the Holy Spirit uses time, but does not believe in it. And the more I think with the Holy Spirit, I don't believe in time either. But I allow Him to use time through me. So we have appointments, and I have to go to work at a specific time and celebrate my grandchildren on their birthdays and so on. So I don't believe in it, but it's used by the Spirit through me, happily, happily. Coming from God, Holy Spirit uses everything for good. Isn't that good news? Everything. It's nothing you can say or do or believe or experience that He can't use for good. So He does not believe what is not true. And since He is in my mind, we have one mind together, and He is in my mind because I'm a part of that mind. My mind can also believe only what is true. So I know, deep down there, I know that I am lying to myself when I believe I am this body, this individual, when I believe a conflict is true, when I believe money is true. I know that I am lying. I know that I'm lying. And I can start to see that and give all the lies to the Holy Spirit so He can wash them clean and just give them back to me in their pure form. And I can start to extend. Rather, He is extending through me. The Holy Spirit can speak only for this because He speaks for God. He tells you to return your whole mind to God because it has never left Him. And that is what starts to dawn to your mind when you practice A Course in Miracles. It is now. It has never been anything else. That's today's lesson, actually, that you start to live more in the now. It's lesson 314, where you start to live more in the now and you see the future as an extension of the now. So the Holy Spirit tells us to return our whole minds to God because it has never left Him. And if it has never left Him, we need only to perceive it as it is. Oh, it's so effortless to be returned. We only to receive it as it is to be returned. And that is the full awareness of the atonement, the recognition that the separation never occurred. And we start to live in that fact more and more the more we practice. And the ego can't prevail. So you start to see the ego with the distance. You even though I wake up in the middle of the night with the ego's thoughts because I have surrendered to the ego during the night, I can see it's the ego. So I can start a conversation with Holy Spirit and ask for help to not think with the ego. I only want to think with Holy Spirit. And it works better and better, better and better. So the ego cannot prevail against this because it is an explicit statement that the ego never occurred. It doesn't exist. So we have 4 minutes left. We start tomorrow here at paragraph 11. Thank you so much. Bye bye.